So I did not announce this live. But I have been called to let you all in a little bit on my process. So I am going to save this to my feed for anyone who may need it later or wants to tap in and just kind of give you some insight. So since Capricorn season, we're now not in Capricorn season anymore. We're in Aquarius season. But I usually thrive in Capricorn season. So that's an interesting time for me. I have my rising is in Capricorn, and the cardinal signs are typically a time when my energy thrives. The transitions of the sun over my ascendant, and the different alignments that happen with my ascendant being where it is, and then my sun being in Libra. I typically have just a very high energetic response to the cardinal shifts. So the equinoxes and the solstices. I don't know if that's how you say it plural, but and this year it started off great. I had a lot of movement, a lot of momentum, and I had my goals all done for the upcoming year that we are now in. And I had the how-to, the map. I have recently joined a really high elevated coaching group to get poured into so that I may pour out. And it's been very motivating. It's been very enlightening, and it's given me so much insight. So shout out to the Lion's Den. Thank you, Sean and Sax, for all you do. And, but in this whole process, I have, it was interesting because Sean had mentioned that he was actually growing through something himself, and, essentially kind of like a dark night of the soul energy. And a little while ago, when was that? Right before the solstice, actually, I did an event. It's been like 2 years in the making at True Fusion Eastern, and I did a winter solstice event, and that was about the shadow work. And I guess what kind of happened, because at that moment, I was not in a place of darkness. I was not in a place of any sort of any darkness, really, at all. Like, I've been very very lighthearted. I've been on my shit and, checking off my to-do list, taking names, doing all the things. And I come back from Christmas in Los Angeles, and the momentum that I had created, which was continued there, it just started to fizzle. And I ended up getting sick right after the turn of the year. And it's interesting alignment because I got really, really sick right at the end of 2018, beginning of 2019. That was a self-imposed sickness. So I actually drank myself into the flu with the lifestyle I was living, and just essentially my higher self was kind of like, you're not going to be doing this anymore, so we're going to get this out of you. And in that process, since then I rarely even drink any alcohol. And, but so I got sick, and, it started with a 20-hour migraine, and I don't get migraines. So I was like, what is this? Right? Like this whole frontal lobe pressure. I don't even know if it was a migraine, because I don't know what migraines are technically, but, 20 hours straight. And I ended up like, it forced me into a very reflective state. I hate being sick. I don't think I've been sick since the time that I just referenced before that. And I do not do well not being able to do what I want to do. Like I mentioned, I have a Capricorn rising. My Mars is also in Capricorn in my first house. So I like to get shit done. I like to be very productive. And when that's not happening, or not happening in the way that I want to, like, don't get me wrong, I can definitely sometimes fall into complacency or being unproductive. But when it's not on my own terms and it's forced, I do not like it. So I ended up really falling into this whole interesting thought pattern. Right before the turn of the year, also, on my mat, I started shedding a lot. It started in Scorpio season, from what I thought was only for me to shed so that I could prepare for the Reiki Master certification that I went through. And then it started to pop up again. And it really started to pop up in the Set Series class that I take. It was not popping up as far as my personal teaching, but in my practice. And after some time and sitting with this and kind of really diving in, I realized that these cyclical energies that occur, that if you don't deal with them, and just like shadow work, they resurface in different ways, with different people, with different energies. And what I was doing was latching on to different teachers' experiences, and in the hopes of kind of recreating events that I did not fulfill when I was younger. So when I was younger, I was a athlete, a softball player, soccer player, and I grew up with a single mom, and the dynamic of the sports world growing up with a single mother was a little bit different than the coaches that I had, being male and having a child on the team, and that child usually getting the precedence over everyone else. And but my output and my ability spoke so much that they had to essentially give me placement. And there were times where I was like the undefeated pitcher, and then I went to the all-star team, and then I sat on the bench. So I realized I've been battling through this whole idea of not being seen, not being felt, not being heard, and not feeling validated, searching for validation from others rather than just accepting what I see within myself. And I literally, if you've seen me on my mat lately, it's been a great, beautiful shit show of just being very hard on myself, because I'm not doing what it is that I want to do. My body is not able to do things that my mind wants it to do. And things that after years of practice, you would think that a teacher would be able to do. For instance, I still can't do crow. I still can't fully bind in Bird of Paradise successfully enough to know that I should be stepping up. I can do side crow, but I don't know why but anyway, I mean, there's things that like, and I see other people in their practice, and it started an energy of comparison, an energy of lack within myself. And it really was just this entire, like, it's honestly been like a few months if I keep it real. But it's really just come to a head over these last couple weeks since I've not been sick and I've gotten back on my mat. And it's interesting to like listen to your self-talk and to really know, what is you talking, what is your higher self talking, what is your ego talking, and delineating between them. And I got to the point last Tuesday where I literally was looking at myself in the mirror crying, and I was like, well, I'm just going to develop my home practice, which I still don't have I don't really have a home practice, let's be real. And I've been it's on my things of, these are things that I need to develop, is a really strong at home practice. I was like, fine, I'll just totally develop my home practice. I'll fall off of my mat at the studio and only show up to teach, which clearly was not me talking. That was my ego. And I was just literally in this whole thing of like, cause I'm just not good enough. And then it got to the point where I'm like, students probably don't need to be seeing me cry all the time on my mat. And then at the same time, I'm like, it's not that I'm crying because something's wrong. It's not like I'm having a breakdown. I'm just, breaking down. There's a difference. And it's been a very interesting process. It's been a very interesting few weeks, where it's really just come to the head. And I've had a few conversations with different teachers about it. And, one of them, my mentor was like, I kind of briefly mentioned what was going on. And he was like, it doesn't really sound like you could be very present on your mat if you are over here thinking about, the past and, your different experiences with different coaches and sports growing up and things like that. And I was like, valid. But of course, like, I had to go through my process, right? And no one knows how long your process is going to be. Like, you don't even know how long that process is going to be. Your higher self doesn't really even know. Only you can determine what it is. And I speak a lot about, or if you've taken my classes, I talk about the bridge that we stand on, of the gap between knowing and doing. And I was on that bridge for a few weeks. And I'm saying this and sharing this to just kind of let you all in on the fact that we're all human and we all have our own processes. We all have these cycles that we grow through. We all have these moments of aha and oh shit, and that the wallowing that we do, the moments of us sitting in our shit. I mean, I literally was like, it was just very interesting, like the alignment of Sean talking about his dark night of the soul, me right before that talking about the nodes shifting and the south node moving into Scorpio, and the fact that we're going to be growing through a collective dark night of the soul, and hosting that workshop on shadow work, and then getting sick and having to literally sit with myself and put myself down and not be able to teach and not be able to take classes and not even have enough energy to start the home practice that I know that I need to. And then to have all of it come to a head and all of a sudden, just coming out. And, it was actually very beautiful because, we don't have to grow through these things alone. Whatever part of me decided to even just open my mouth and share my experience with other teachers, with other people, and kind of, who knows, maybe part of me was seeking validation and trying to fill the hole of what it was that I was, originally trying to fill in general of what caused all these emotions. But, if I wouldn't have even opened my mouth, I wouldn't have had that experience. I wouldn't have had the moment to self-reflect and gained and been given additional knowledge and additional wisdom and additional viewpoints from other teachers, from other more experienced teachers and more more lived souls, at least in this lifetime. And what kind of was a turning point was a conversation I had, specifically on Friday, yes, taking a class that I had never taken before and really pushing myself out of my comfort zone rather than going to the classes that I normally take with the teacher that I always take, stretching my capacity, stretching my own personal, my own personal experience, and, allowing myself to not only grow as a student, but also as a teacher, hearing different cues, different, insight, different, seeing other bodies that you wouldn't normally see and seeing their ability. And rather than falling into comparison, like I fell into inspiration. And really, what got me was I was taking an Ashtanga class, and I don't even know how to explain it, but it was interesting because it's a very difficult class and it's 90 minutes and there's very light music and there's not much cueing. So, you kind of, once you know what the sequence is, you know what you're doing. And you just kind of get there and you sit there for 5 breaths for each pose. And there was this woman next to me who clearly isn't what they call an Ashtangi, and she has a avid practice, or much more so than my first time, and she was very able-bodied, and she was able to do all the things, including going into plow, flipping your hands, and apparently you can end up in chaturanga, like if you keep flipping, and it's like a somersault, but without a tuck. Your legs are extended. And I was like watching her, I was like, holy shit, right? Like your body is able to do so much more than you even think that it can. And then it comes to the ending part of the practice, which happens to be, a headstand. And my headstand's great. I don't need a wall. And that's like my one thing that I'm like, this is great. I still am not fully stable in tripod from Pazarita, but it is what it is. I'm getting there. And she actually had trouble, the same woman that I'm just speaking about. And I'm like, whoa, right? You would think that this woman who can do everything before would have no problem getting into headstand. And I was just like, that's like, I had to go to that class to have that experience, and then to speak to the teacher after, who is a dear friend. And I kind of let her in on my experience, and she mentioned the fact that she does this, she's grown through something similar, and kind of, pivots back to it sometimes too. And she's like, what's happening is we are latching on to a particular person with a past experience that we've had. So I've been latching on to the particular teachers and my mentor, and really coinciding that with not getting validation when I was younger, and not being quote unquote good enough, not being quote unquote worthy. These are all limiting beliefs in my own brain, subconscious thing. I'm not saying that that's what it is actually. But like those processes, those things that I've been working through. And it was just like such a beautiful, like eye-opening moment. And, and then also she mentioned, which mind you, her practice is impeccable, but she was like, okay, so what? So you get into handstand, right? Like, and granted, there's always somewhere for you to go in yoga, and that's the beautiful thing about it. She's like, but, and then what? Like, granted, yes, I could go beyond the handstand, but like the fact that I can't even get to handstand yet, or stick it, free, or get into Bird of Paradise yet. Like, I have so much available to me that I'm going to be able to walk into and be able to do. And so it's just this mindset shift. It's this, and these are all things that I know. These are all things that I teach personally to my clients, to my students, to my coaching clients, to my Reiki clients, like to everyone. But like I mentioned earlier, it's that gap, that bridge of the gap between knowing and doing. And I have been standing on that for quite some time. And I just wanted to kind of give light to the process of, you know, we can shorten that bridge as short as we want it to be, or we can lengthen it as long as we may need it to be. Like, that bridge may need to be pretty long, and it may need to be in a cycle and in a cycle, so that you can come back around to those specific energies and to those specific points, and give yourself another opportunity to see how you're going to respond. So, on Monday, which is tomorrow, I'm going to see how I respond in Signature, and see if tears are shed, or see if I have some compassion and grace with myself, and my process. And, I guess maybe I'll let you all know what happens. But I just kind of wanted to, give light to anyone that may need it, of what shadow work looks like. And it's sitting with yourself. It's sitting with your questions that you need to have answered. It's sitting with and asking yourself why. Where is this coming from? Where is this actually stemming from? Because it's not necessarily comparison. Like, I was trying to think if maybe it's imposter syndrome. Maybe I'm like, okay, well, I'm not good enough to be, it kind of like crept in for a moment. Like, maybe I'm not good enough to be, a teacher if I'm not able to do these things. But like, then I squashed that real quick, because, that I just know that that's not what it is. It's like literally me comparing myself to others, comparing and wanting something so bad. And yet I have to be honest with myself, and honest with the amount of work and the amount of effort that I have or have not put into my personal practice. I do teach quite a bit. And so, honing in on that skill, keeping that skill going, and allows you to keep evolving it. So if if I have to pick and choose, and so it's really just allowed me to identify some places in my life where I need better time management, what I'm going to prioritize moving forward, and make sure that I am, if this is something that I really want to do, am giving myself, my being, enough time to work towards it. So, and without falling into excuses, without, I am a business owner, I'm an entrepreneur. And so time is of the essence, and but at the same time, what is time? So, just reminding myself that I'm blessed, that I'm abundant, that I am, all things come to me with ease and grace. All these mantras that I give you all, I practice myself, but at the same time, every once in a while we are human, and sometimes we forget. Sometimes we have to be reminded of the importance of what those mantras are, or what your process is, or making peace with your past so that you may move forward into your present. And honestly, I'm really thankful for the pause. It seemed like the pause was all of Capricorn season, which kind of sucks, but I had to remind myself, like, you're a Capricorn rising. You're never not a Capricorn. You don't need a fucking season to be able to do the work. My 10th house is Scorpio. So like, that's where this all comes in. It's like, I'm here to do the work. I'm here to dig. I'm here to ask myself the tough questions and to really work through this shit. And I've realized that this year, it's not just about keeping that to myself. It's about sharing it and being more vocal, using my voice, and showing up. So here's to that, and have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your Sunday and week ahead.